I think this is a really interesting thing about K-pop that you see happening. You don't see happening the same way in other music industries or just other industries. Is that K-pop is a really active community on its own. You know, I think fans usually have this really strong feeling of, especially with BTS, you know, a certain member or a certain song or all these different things. And BTS along the way has just encouraged people to become part of their army. So it's not just that you're a fan, it's that you learn the dances and then you learn bits of Korean if you don't know any Korean, or you actually start to learn the Korean language as a result, or you follow them on social media. So I think it's so much more than just being a fan of some music, and they've made it into this really strong, I mean, even the word army is a really active term for a group of people. You know, there's a whole idea of what it means to be in an army. So I think that really has lent itself really well to people all of a sudden taking on more activist roles, is because from the beginning it was an active community, and now they're just putting it into a political context and actually talking to each other, which says something interesting about if K-pop fans have, you know, kind of common sense mentality around politics and culture, even though it's a global movement.
Yeah, because you don't really see, I mean, besides Live Aid, you know, back in the day, Quincy Jones getting every celebrity under the sun together. What I love about what's happening now is you can be somewhere in rural Michigan and I can be somewhere in Sydney, Australia. And because of the internet, it's able to connect us, and we're able to say, look, I really care about this charity, which may be, you know, quite a small charity, you know, grassroots charity, and no one may know about it. But because of the internet, I love how fans can come on board, you know, and I think of one in an army as well, and they're able to pinpoint exactly why you should help, why you should donate, what the cause is about. And it's just kind of that camaraderie. And you know that the boys from BTS are doing it as well. They're like, hey, this is my cause. And I love how they celebrate on their birthdays as well. You know, let's just get together and let's do a charity drive. And we're going to really, you know, it's just this weird, you haven't really seen it before, because singers are very apolitical. You know, it's kind of, they stick to what they know, which is entertainment. Sometimes they get reeled in when it's like a big event that goes on globally, but you don't really get this kind of constant day-to-day stream of, hey, let's do something for this community. Let's actually make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole concept of someone being apolitical or political neutrality in sport is my whole topic. But it's the same thing in music, is that a lot of the time there is kind of this political neutrality from major figures, but BTS has always kind of adopted and held on to this, we've got ideas about certain things and we're going to broadcast them. I mean, even with their collaboration with the UN, with the Love Yourself message, that was huge.
Was it? And you know what? That was the first time that I'm like, hey, this is like an Asian young person who has the stage. And what I loved was the fact that I think it was the president of the UN was like, you know, afterwards, can I have a selfie? Like, you know what I mean? for credit for like, you know, niece or nephew going over there. But it's just like cool, you know? It's like, yeah, for once, people understand the power of who these guys are. Like, the army is real and it is massive, and it's like this living entity that gets stronger and stronger. And particularly what you were saying in your article at The Diplomat was the fact that you know, BTS and then the army and Black Lives Matter. So that's a huge thing that BTS was a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not even sure where to start with that. There was so many areas where army stepped up and did something. And that, I mean, that and also speaks to something interesting with what you were just saying. It was BTS with the UN. It was like the first time there was this young Asian group speaking to the world, and that means something. I mean, we talk about this even more so now in the US just because of everything that's been going on, but representation really matters. And to even see it come not from within the US, but to see it having influence, to see, I guess, BTS and K-pop stands all of a sudden having an influence on Black Lives Matter, having an influence on a Donald Trump rally, just shows that this isn't just like confined to the traditional East, you know, or the traditional West. It's that this is a global thing that is now spanning across, and that's something that the internet allows you to do, and something that K-pop has encouraged, is that no matter where you're from, this is supposed to be a movement and it belongs to everyone. But it's one of a really unique movement, a youth movement for the most part, that has been able to do that, that has spanned the East-West divide, which has so long been just this major, I mean, until BTS, when did you know about a major young Asian entertainment actor, you know, singer, anyone, if you didn't live in Asia for any amount of time? I mean, it was just completely shut off. It was like Hollywood was everywhere and Asia just stayed in Asia. And now all of a sudden you have K-pop kind of coming out. And that might be another reason that there's such a big influx of activism, is because people are realizing like we have a voice, and not just in our own countries. Now we can have a global voice. And that you see that in the Black Lives Matter movement, I think, because K-pop fans are from every walk of life and from every ethnicity. There obviously are issues within K-pop with anti-Blackness, and I write about that a little bit in the article. But nonetheless, that community stepped up, and at a time when it was an important time, and it made a statement that community was stepping up to talk about that issue, or at least support the issue.
Yeah, and do you think that this is a flash in the pan, that, you know, this activism kind of gets hot, kind of trends a bit and dies down? Or do you think that, you know, K-pop now and BTS and what they've stood for is setting the tone for everyone else? I mean, as they are everywhere, right? Because, you know, any song that they drop, any video that they drop, any trailer that they drop, you know, parallel with Blackpink as well, just is, you know, there's a huge fan base and people love it.
Yeah, I think that almost is asking the question of, is the political activism we saw from K-pop fans around Black Lives Matter like a one-hit wonder in its own right? And I don't think so. I think that the nature of that, if it is true activism, the nature of that is that people grow into being activists, people develop. So I don't think it's going to be a one and done situation, especially because it's not like anti-discrimination or discrimination has been solved, you know. So across the world, I think people are beginning to see. I think the US has long served as a litmus test of that, of saying like, look how obvious it is. And discrimination is present across the world. So I think, if anything, this is just a beginning of, look, we can point out in the US in a place where it's so obvious and so present all the time. And I think we're just going to see people now bring that into their own context more and more and more. So I don't think it's a one-hit wonder of activism. I think it's a community that's just gotten started.